Welcome, everyone. I see the attendee list is growing moment by moment because we just started. So welcome, everyone. Some of the names are recognized, some I don't. I'm wondering even if you'd just like to put a little chat message with your location. It will be wonderful to see where you're calling from. So we'll just jump in. We have about an hour. So thank you so much for being available and coming us for our call. My name is Rami Efal, and I'm the Executive Director of Zen Peacemakers. And we have on our call Samantha Steinmetz, who is a Program Manager at Simply Smiles. And I'm delighted to have Samantha with us because she will really give us a very thorough overview of what to expect when we're going on our week of service on Cheyenne Sioux Tribe Reservation. And before I pass the mic to Samantha, I will just give a little context of what is this event, where is this event in the larger view of what we do in Zen Peacemakers. So first I will just bring to mind our founder, Bernie Glassman, and the Zen training and the legacy that he's been developing and passing on to us. And really coming up with those three principles that all the work that we're doing in Zen Peacemakers are based on, and those are the three tenets. Coming with a fresh mind of not knowing, putting away our prejudices or being aware of our prejudices, bearing witness to ourselves and others, all aspects of life, all the needs of life, the sufferings and the joys. And the third principle is that action that comes out of that openness and out of that being one with us, ourselves, and others, an action comes out, and it's a natural and it's infused with well-being and compassion. So these are the three principles that we do everything with, and those three principles led Bernie and the Zen Peacemakers for the past 30 years. Through a very rich legacy of bearing witness retreats. We've been going to Auschwitz-Birkenau for 23 years. That's a death camp from World War II, where many people were exterminated from different origins and for different reasons. And we have a whole process there, and that's been going on for 23 years. We've been doing plunges on the streets to bear witness to what it's like to be in the most unprivileged way in our city lives. Our affiliates and our members developed bearing witness retreats in Bosnia, and we had a big bearing witness retreat in Rwanda. And including in those 30 years, some of our members also developed deep relations with some of the Lakota. It's a Native American nation in the United States, and developed those relationships for about 16 years. And those 16 years gave rise, again, that action gave rise to the last 3 years when we were setting forward an annual program with those Lakota friends. We had a large bearing witness retreat in the Black Hills to 2015. 2016, we did a smaller bearing witness plunge in which we visited on Simply Smiles. We were just basically pilgrimaging around the Cheyenne River Reservation, seeing the people, meeting people, being on the farmlands and the hills. And one of the places that we stopped for a few nights was Simply Smile, which felt like an oasis in the middle of a very beautiful countryside. And I found, and I think our whole group found, a wonderful ally there. Simply Smiles, and Sam will speak more about that, has been working there for years and really serving the community in many, many ways. So I said a lot, and I'll just also say that part of the Native American programs for this year that our week of service is part of, there's another part that we're putting together right now, and we haven't published that publicized that yet, but we're going to do another bearing witness plunge with our Lakota hosts there, which will take us and immerse us more in their community. And we're very grateful for their hosting and generosity. So I'll just name a few. I see Don from Big Indian. I see people from Seattle. Anthony, my assistant, is chiming in from Montague, Massachusetts, New Mexico, Colorado, New York, Wisconsin. Wonderful. So thank you, everyone, for joining. So with no further ado, I'll pass on the mic to Sam. And Sam, thank you so much for taking time. You're organizing a whole year. You're taking to organize a very robust summer. So please share with us. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We are very excited for the Zen Peacemaker group to join us again on the reservation. Last summer was really, really a fantastic week for us and for all of our community friends out on the reservation. So I'm just going to take a second to share my screen so I can show you our presentation. Is that good?
Sam, I see your screen. Can any of you chat and just say that you're seeing the Simply Smiles banner on your screens? Just to confirm you're seeing? Yes, wonderful. Great.
Great. Okay, so Simply Smiles, we work to provide bright futures for children, their families, and communities, both in Oaxaca, Mexico, where our other program is, but today we're going to be talking about our programs on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation out in South Dakota. And so the Zen Peacemaker Week, you'll be joining us July 21st through 28th out on the reservation. And before we go into the details of the week, we really like to give some context about the reservation and about our friends on the Cheyenne River Reservation in the town of La Plante, where we've been working for the last 8 years. So the Cheyenne River Reservation is about the size of Connecticut inside of South Dakota. And the history of this place and the larger context is, again, really important to understand, and to not even just understand, it's so much to understand, but to just start scratching the surface before you spend time in this place that's so different from our homes. And so just to go over a bit of the history of the Cheyenne River Reservation, from the very first contact of Native peoples in our country, there was a very negative tone set between the new pilgrims and the new United States government with the Native Americans throughout the entire country, of course. And even in 1776, when our Declaration of Independence was signed, there was a line stating that they were dealing with merciless Indian savages, which of course set the tone for the rest of our history and communication and contact with Native peoples that very much lasts through today. In 1862, the Homestead Act was signed that granted Western land to anyone who wanted to take it. So any white person who wanted to move west. Thousands of settlers flooded into Lakota territory throughout the whole region of South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana. The Lakota people roamed the whole region of those states following the buffalo to survive. But by 1900, an estimated 80 million acres were seized by these new pilgrims moving west with complete disregard to Native peoples and their way of life. In 1871, the Indian Appropriations Act was signed, which meant that for the first time, Native peoples in our country had to be placed on reservation land. And so this is when the reservation system was entirely formed. And for the first time, Native people, and specifically Lakota people, had to be on this designated land and not go off. So again, the Lakota people roamed where the buffalo roamed to survive, but they were placed on this Cheyenne River Reservation where you could not grow your own food and they could no longer sustain themselves. So for the first time, they were essentially prisoners of war on their own land, in their own country. And perhaps one of the biggest impacts of all of this was the slaughtering of the buffalo. As these pilgrims, as these people started moving west, they just took out the millions and millions of buffalo that roamed this whole region. And it wasn't an official policy of, you know, the United States government or the United States Army, but it was very well known throughout this time and period that, you know, if you take out a buffalo, if you kill a buffalo, then you kill an Indian. And that was largely the intention. And at the start of the 1800s, there was an estimated 30 million buffalo that roamed this whole region where the Lakota lived. But by 1893, there were about 400 left. And so through all this, years and years of war ensued between the Lakota people and the United States government. But this all largely came to an end in 1890 with the Battle of Wounded Knee in Wounded Knee, South Dakota, which is not far from where we are focused today on the reservation. And many Lakota people from this town of La Plante, where we work, their grandparents, their ancestors were part of this battle. They came to fight for their life. But in this battle in 1890, 300 Lakotas, mostly women and children, were slaughtered by the American 7th Cavalry. And it was after this one battle that 20 Congressional Medals of Valor were given to the 7th Cavalry, which is the most ever rewarded after a single American battle. Throughout the 20th century, the unofficial policy towards the Native population was to kill the Indian and save the man. And this meant that thousands upon thousands of Native kids were stolen from their homes and forced into government-mandated Christian boarding schools, where they're told that being a Lakota was a sin, and they're forced to cut their long hair short, and they could no longer speak their Lakota language. And if they did, they were whipped. And so, you know, this is very recent history. These kids that grew up in these boarding schools are now the grandparents or the elders in the town where we work today. So of course they did not pass on their language and culture to their kids and their grandkids who come to our summer camp programs, because they didn't want it to be, again, whipped out of them. This is, you know, a quote from a pretty famous Lakota leader today. His name is Frank Juan. He says, you know, one of the biggest problems is that people believe that Native issues and Native people are of the past, and it just doesn't exist today. You know, and all these problems continue today, especially with just last year, the Standing Rock protests up in North Dakota, which is just 2 hours from where we work on the Cheyenne River Reservation. Many of our friends went up to Standing Rock to fight for the whole year up there for their right to water and life. And of course, you know, it was a huge success for a short period of time, and then they were forced out and forced to go home. And their peaceful protests were met with water cannons in freezing temperatures. And this is just a continuation of our treatment of Native peoples today. And this is a quote from Frank Juan again, who is a Lakota hip hop artist, if you are interested in looking him up. But he explains, you know, it's, again, people just don't think of Native Americans as real people today. People still think that Native Americans in the United States live in teepees and still hunt for buffalo. They have no conception of what the American government purposely did to make these communities so poor. And the statistics of current Native problems today are really alarming. Native Americans are dying from diabetes at a rate of 3 times the national average. In 2016, Native students graduated from high school at a rate of 41% in South Dakota, and the white student population graduated at a rate of 88. Native children suffer exposure to violence at rates higher than any other race in the United States. And Native children experience post-traumatic stress disorder at the same rate of Vietnam veterans, just from growing up on reservations. A resident of Dewey County on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation is 3.5 times more likely to die prematurely than a resident of the neighboring county located off the reservation. And an average life expectancy for an adult male is 48 years old. Over the last 8 years of Simply Smiles working in this one town of La Plante on the Cheyenne River Reservation, we have lost 3 children to suicide. And there is one suicide prevention coordinator for the whole reservation of 9,000 people. So even when our kids talk to us all of the time or mention thoughts of suicide to us, you know, and we're semi-trained in mental health professions, we have nowhere else to go to. There's not a person, there's not a team of people who respond to kids who have thoughts of suicide in this town where it's an epidemic. But after, you know, years of bringing volunteers from around the world and from around the country to this place to show these kids that they are loved, we're starting to see some real change. And it's because of people like you who choose to take a week out of their life and come from all these faraway places to spend this week with our kids that it's starting to really make a difference. And, you know, Simply Smiles, our philosophy, it's where our name comes from, is we believe that everyone at the very least has the power to make a child smile. And everyone has the ability to, in small increments, make someone feel better and become that change agent. And those smiles, those moments are essential building blocks. And so we need you to join us to help engage, inspire, and empower these Lakota youth. And though all of these problems may seem daunting and an enormous task, we focus on the very small moments and the moments that we can create really positive change together. And so during your week, you'll help us create an oasis for the kids where they don't have to worry about what's going on back home or at school, and they can just be kids. When we first started working in this town, you know, nobody really trusted us. People who looked like me had come to this town and this reservation for years and generations, of course, you know, and told these people, you know, we will only help the corrupt town leader and no one else, or we'll only help you if you read this Bible verse first. And Simply Smiles, you know, we're a non-religious organization, and we just decided to try to help everyone and try to just be friends helping friends, because we decided that that was the only way to move forward together. And so we work really hard to work with the community and just make decisions together. And so now, after building trust and building this relationship, we're very much part of this community, and the kids cannot wait to come to our youth programs or summer camp programs. And we have a lot of fun. We'll bring our creativity and energy to all of our youth-focused activities. And we'll host some crafts and games. You can play on the playground and even just sit and read a book and have these one-on-one moments that we otherwise could not provide. You know, the Simply Smile staff are a staff of just 6 people. And so I physically cannot sit with Anastasia every single day and read a book, or work with Ivis every single afternoon on a construction project because that's what he's really into, or make solar-powered cars with Sergio. And so you'll help us work with the kids to improve the community. We'll go on some field trips to the river. Last year with the Zen Peacemaker group, we took some kids to Crazy Horse, which was great. We'll share our experiences with the kids and adults alike. We host a few townwide meals throughout the week, so we get to spend some time listening to stories and sharing culture and experiences with one another, with the kids and adults alike. And so we'll focus on bringing our love and attention and energy for these kids, so that they know their self-worth and become more confident, and they can continue to bring that to the outside world, outside this reservation, and understand that they are capable of thriving outside of this place. And so, you know, the biggest goal is that by the end of the week, kids like Baptiste start to understand that they deserve everything in this world that we have. They start to understand that they are not that much different than you and me, and that they are capable of much more that they've been told. And so we're very, very excited for you all to share your experiences and talents with us and with the kids. And so this is more what a week looks like on the reservation. We'll be staying in the La Plante Community Center. It's one big building in town. Living conditions are pretty basic. We have latrines for bathrooms, and I promise they're the nicest latrines you could use. We'll make all of our own food together. We eat very healthfully on the reservation. This past summer, we built a volunteer bunk house, which is brand new and beautiful. So you'll have your own bunk bed in this indoor big building. I have a picture of that in a second. The Simply Smile staff were with you 24/7. We live right next to you and are with you with all of the projects and programs, helping you lead everything. And it's a very safe experience. We've been working in this town and on the reservation in total for just about a decade, and we're very much, accepted into this community. And so you'll fly into Rapid City, South Dakota, and the Simply Smile staff will pick you up in our big bus and drive you the 5 hours to La Plante on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation. So it's a pretty long day of travel, but we stop a few times on the bus to get food and everything, and then we get back to La Plante in time for dinner together. This is a picture of our new volunteer bunkhouse all completed that Rami and the group helped with last year. It is beautiful and very nice and warm, and there's air conditioning when it's really hot in the summer. And so we have some exciting news this summer too. For the last 8 years, we've been working in the town of La Plante on the reservation. And, when we started working on the reservation, we thought, it's the United States. We can probably start working in this one town and then expand pretty quickly to towns throughout this reservation and then to other reservations throughout the country. But we just got destroyed in this one town of La Plante when we first started working there. People didn't trust us. We didn't understand a lot of things. And so we just decided we had to go so slow and build relationships and build friendships and just sit and listen first, and then figure out ways to move forward together. And so now, after 7-8 years in this one town, we've figured out the way to move beyond. And so we're expanding our reach to another town just 20 minutes away called Swiftburg. And all the kids who live in Swiftburg go to the school in La Plante, so they're all classmates, and many of the families are related and everything. And so we're really excited to be able to include and expand our programs to this other town. And so we'll be going to get kids in Swiftburg every morning and bringing them back to La Plante for all of our programs. So everything will still be based in the town of La Plante. And so this is what a typical day on the reservation looks like. In the morning, we'll have summer camp programs, which will be 2 hours, 10:30 to 12:30. And you'll act as a camp counselor and help Simply Smiles host summer camp for about 60 kids. And we'll run different activity stations like fun games and art programs, sports and crafts, anything and everything that you can imagine for summer camp. And we'll ask you all to help us plan some exciting games and crafts for camp each day, things that you would like to do with the kids and share your experiences. And so that'll go from 10:30 to 12:30. Then we'll all break and have lunch together in the community center. And in the afternoon, we do youth enrichment programs. And I'll talk more about that in just a second. And then in most evenings, we'll have community programs. So we'll have like a townwide dinner or invite some elders in town to come talk or play horseshoes or cards. And so it's a full day really getting to know and being immersed in this community. And so this is more about the afternoon enrichment programs. And this is a brand new program that we are hosting on the reservation. And it's because we're expanding to this new community, Swiftburg. So we want to really focus on youth programs for this summer to ingratiate this community to everything that we've been doing in La Plante for the last 8 years. And so we'll have normal summer camp in the morning, let the kids get out their energy and do anything, any craft or game that we host in the morning. We'll break for lunch, and then in the afternoon, we'll have the kids choose from one of these 6 options. So that includes hiking. We'll do a hike every day at different parts of La Plante and maybe Swiftburg. Sports in the gym. Up at the school across the street, we'll host daily STEM programs focused around like building Legos or solar-powered cars. We do a book club and beading class up at the library at the school. And so kids who want more like quiet time or art time, we'll do that with them at the school. Tiny Tots for kids 4 to 7, we'll play with them on the playground and do fun things. And then in the 6 option will be up to you guys. If you have a special skill or talent that you want to host, like a class for a small group of kids, probably about 10 or so kids in the afternoons, we can work with you to do that. Whether that's like how to change a tire or a special dance class or art class that you want to host, we can have that be an option too. So we'll work with you on planning that. And then in the afternoon on Wednesdays, we take a trip to the Missouri River to have a swim day with the kids, which they love. So these are more details about actually coming out to the reservation, which is all in our handbook. So our Reservation Volunteer Handbook is on our website, which has all of these details and more about joining us on the reservation. And so, of course, you just need a normal identification to fly to Rapid City, South Dakota to get on the plane. We ask that you're up to date on your tetanus shot before joining us. What you'll eat, we'll make all of our own food, pretty normal American diet. And if we're lucky, we'll be able to experience some traditional Lakota food too. We ask that you're just aware of the cultural differences, of course. You know, this is not really the United States. When you get to the reservation, it's a sovereign land, sovereign nation. And so we'll talk more about that when you arrive, but just to be aware that we're no longer in our home. Religion, Simply Smiles is a non-religious organization and we don't proselytize. And, you know, a lot of people on the reservation are Christian or Baptist, a lot of different faiths, and some people like talking about it and some people don't. Some people have been hurt by different church or religious groups, and so we just ask that you tread lightly and share when people ask about it, and kind of just tread lightly with that situation. With mental preparation, we'll talk a little more in a second about this, but you'll definitely meet kids who, you know, all of our kids on the reservation, they've all lost a brother, sister, or classmate to suicide before the age of 14. And that's a really hard thing to deal with every single day for them. And you know, if they talk about it, it's hard to deal with. So on Sunday, the first day of the week, after you guys arrive, we'll do a whole training session about how to respond appropriately to kids if they talk about mental health issues. You can bring cameras if you want. We just will ask that you try to keep them safe. And we'll ask you, there'll be times where we ask you not to take pictures too. Mostly like when we go pick up the kids around their homes and stuff, we don't want to be seen as tourists. We'll be drinking a lot of water throughout the week. It does get really hot and dry out on the reservation. Last summer was particularly hot. There were many days where it was 100 degrees or so, but we take a lot of water breaks and we do have shade. We talked about bathrooms and sleeping. We'll be able to take a couple showers up at the school once or twice a week. We're just not able to use the school showers every day, but the showers are cold and fast for the most part. We ask that you pack pretty lightly. We don't have an endless space, whether it's in our bus with all of your stuff or in the bunkhouse. And the weather, we just have to, you'll have to look at the weather report before heading out. You know, in July, it'll probably be pretty hot, but it could rain, the South Dakota weather is very unpredictable. Usually beautiful. On our release forms that we ask you to fill out, we ask you to disclose any medical conditions or food needs, and we will accommodate that appropriately. We just need to know ahead of time so that the release forms are due 2 months before you come out to the reservation. The week is pretty physically demanding. We'll be working with kids a lot, and we will be hosting some construction projects throughout the week too, and that'll depend on how much you all want to be involved in construction projects and what we have to finish that week. But we are going to be doing some construction projects throughout the week, which will be either in lieu of summer camp in the morning, or there'll be some projects where we can work with some of the older kids on construction too and teach them and learn all together. The fees, the Simply Smiles volunteer fee is all inclusive, so that covers all your food and lodging and ground transportation and the supplies that you'll need for the week. But you might want to bring a little extra pocket money because we do stop in the bus on the way to and from the airport, things like that. In the handbook, it talks all about communication with the reservation. We ask that you don't have your cell phone on you at all times. It's partly, it's just another division between us and our friends on the reservation, and also between your experience in the week. And so we'll have a safe in the staff house that you can leave your cell phone and use it at night, things like that. There are plenty of dogs out on the reservation, and there's a lot of stray dogs, and some of them hang around the community center quite a bit. And they're very nice to people, but not so nice to other animals. And so you can just touch them if you want. I think they're smelly, but that's just my opinion. We ask that you help us with some chores throughout the week, like doing dishes and things, just so we all lived well together in community. This is the packing list, again, in the handbook, and it goes over line by line of items that you'll need for the week. If you have any questions, you can, of course, reach out about that. It's a page more about communication with the reservation and how to get in touch with Simply Smiles, or any family member could get in touch with us throughout the week. The staff, we will have our cell phones on us throughout the day so that we can be in touch with each other and anyone who needs to get in contact with us. We'll also post pictures to Facebook and Instagram and things so people back home can see what you're doing throughout the week. This is just more about our release form that we ask you to fill out if you sign up. A note on mental health. Again, on the Sunday of the first day of the week, we'll talk much more in depth about how to respond to children if they talk to you about mental health concerns. And so that's a really important part of the experience as well, is just to be fully prepared. These are some additional resources, books, movies that we have found helpful or that portray the Native experience that we have learned about in appropriate ways. And so that's, again, in our handbook if you're interested in reading more. And that is it for me for now. So thank you all very, very much for your interest in joining us. We're very excited for the week again. So I can take some questions now too.
Great. Thank you, Sam. Yeah, so please feel free to, if you have questions, you can just type them into the chat, and we'll give it a little time, and maybe I'll go back and forth with Sam a little bit on some reflections and give you a little time to ask questions. By the way, it's like this is the first time I think I see Samantha in such a corporate environment. Usually we're both in t-shirts, sweating, and so just acknowledging that. And which reminds me just the sense of care that I used to feel in the camp. This is the one thing that was really striking to me and all of the other participants in our group last year and the year before, is that the staff that Sam is leading there is so dedicated, and the patience and the love and really the sense of leadership that we felt that they bestow on the children in terms of bringing them into their own leadership was just inspiring. So I just wanted to point that out, and also the care that they gave to us in terms of participants, making sure that our needs are met and each person is being assigned with work that works for them. Last year we had a gentleman in his late 70s, and we found work for him, and it was wonderful. And a few other things that I thought of is just in terms of the context of us coming in as Zen Peacemakers. Sam and her team is really seeing a different group coming every week. It's like one bus goes to the airport to drop us off, the next one is already on the way to get the next group. And one of the things that they let us do is they also have scheduled time for us as a group, our own group, to come together in our own practices, which is really wonderful for us because it gives us opportunity to come together as a group and practice kind of staple practices in the Zen Peacemakers, which is meditation and doing counsel together. We invite anybody else on the camp to join us, but the whole endeavor for us as Zen Peacemakers in the week there is held with that, with those practices of both the personal meditation and then the collective sharing. And it's a really unique place for me to train, and how to serve, in terms of how to be really in the moment and just take care of what comes up at each moment. I will be there, and another person that will be there with us is General Gaunt, who is a Zen teacher in Bernie's lineage. He has been our main contact to the Native Americans, and he brings with him all of his practice and experience. So it's a whole week of spending time with him on this land, serving hands-on, and it's a really unique opportunity. The other thing, just a few vignettes that I remember, there was, we had a group of, about 13 or 14 people last year, and we come with that sense of us coming to serve and as if we're the ones who are, in a place to give. And I remember there was a moment where I was sitting with a couple, probably in their, they had their grandchildren with us, so they were, older. And at some point they stopped me because I kept asking them questions about life on the reservation. At some point they stopped me and they said, "What about you? Where are you from? Tell us your story." And that was a powerful moment of shifting. And when I realized, one way of giving is also showing them where we're coming from. It's such an isolated place, and most kids were able to go to Crazy Horse Monument. So having you coming from all of these different places and bringing your energy from where you're coming from is wonderful. I remember one child came very early in the morning, way before we started the work, and she was sitting on one of the picnic tables, and I just tried to strike a conversation with her, and I asked her, what's it like, what's your favorite thing in camp? And she said, "I love the camp, and I will do everything they need to be here, so I don't need to be at home." Mm-hmm. And it just goes back a little bit to what Sam was talking about, the realities that they face at home. So these little vignettes are really, really stayed with me. And really stayed with me. One child grabbed me and he said, "Oh, I remember you." I didn't. I didn't remember him. He remembered me. A year. And he grew. I couldn't recognize him. All of a sudden he was, his face changed, he was matured. So they remember us, and we actually make an impact on these children. And Simply Smile has been doing this for 8 years and been seeing these children grow, and it's a very moving experience. So I spoke a lot. I'm seeing Joan posted a question. So I'll just read it. She says, "Hi, Sam. I use the camera on my phone. Can I keep my phone with me? Can I bring a car on the reservation? Can you go off the reservation at night?"
Good questions. So you can bring your phone and use your camera. That's fine. We will just ask, even during summer camp, it's hard if we all have our phones and are taking pictures. We don't want the kids to think that that's why we're there. So just take pictures of them or with them. And the Simply Smile staff, again, will have our phones with our cameras, and we'll be taking pictures throughout the week. And just because they know us and are more comfortable with us, it's just a little easier if we take most of the pictures for the kids and you. For the car, yes, you can drive to the reservation. We will have you sign a driving agreement to do so, just because, with Simply Smiles, to be very honest, we've had kids throw rocks at our vehicles and things like that. And it has never happened when a volunteer has brought their car, but it has happened to our bus and things like that. And so that's just a risk, and we need you to know that. So we'll have you sign a form if you want to drive your car to the reservation, and we'll park it behind the community center and things to keep it as safe as possible. What was the last question? Car. Oh, can you go off hours at night? Yeah. We ask that you don't. When you're with Simply Smiles and our volunteer team, we ask that you do stay with us throughout the week, and that's for safety reasons. And we just, once you're under our care, we like to keep everyone together. And yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam. I could also say that if anybody wants to fit, more travel or just more solo trips, can do it before or do it after. And I can also invite to our plunge that we will do before the week of service. So we'll be already traveling in the area for about 4 days before that. So that's another way to do it with us as a group. But so that's a possibility too. And also just remember from our group from last year, it really builds into the cohesion, the team spirit is really important to the whole endeavor. The kids notice when somebody's gone. They will ask, "Where's this? Where's that?" So it's felt. We are felt, and our presence there is felt, and when we go away, it is felt. So I'm seeing a question from John. Is the Bearing Witness retreat going to be scheduled back to back with the service week? So right now I can only speak in terms of tentative plans because we haven't publicized it yet. And so we are planning to doing that the week before the Simply Smiles week. Our time in Simply Smiles starts on a Saturday. We will probably have a day off before that on Friday. So the plunge will be, Sunday to Thursday or somewhere in that vicinity. So we will have some day off before we're being picked up by Sam and the bus. Yeah. Which, by the way, I would just say that was a very powerful experience last year. We did it the other way. We did the week of service before the plunge. And after we served a week with the children, those who stayed for the second week had a very different experience because we were already charged and with some sense of familiarity and connection with the people. So I encourage if anybody can to do that. Yeah. Okay, if any other questions, feel free to either chat or send on the Q&A. Another thing that I really appreciated about Simply Smiles is how they really embody and such an example of those three tenets that we appreciated and base all of our activities on in terms of the not knowing, the bearing witness, and the taking action. And how every single action that I heard them doing was completely dependent on the community in terms of approval and consensus. And when you go there, you'll see like the entry path is, can be very muddy when there's a lot of rain. And obviously a lot of people I had the thought, why don't we just put a slab of concrete there and just, make a nice drive-in path? And whoever I asked from Simply Smile, they said, this needs to come from the community. The community needs to want us to have that concrete slab there. Not just that slab of concrete is a separation from the land. The community needs to approve that. So for the camp, it's a simple budget item to just put and just put some concrete there. But the level of listening that they have for the community was very moving. So I see John is saying, I didn't see any gray-haired volunteers in the photos. Is that intentional?
No, it's not intentional. And I did show some older adults in our in the presentation, there are, of course, older people who come out to the reservation all of the time and help with every aspect of our programs. So no, I might have gone over it quickly just because I was speaking fast, but not intentional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wonder if we're one of the older groups that come to the camp.
Yeah, we have a handful of adult groups that come throughout the summer. A lot of our volunteers are high school age or college age, just because, you know, those type of groups often look for experiences like this. But yeah, we have plenty of adult groups that come out.
Great. So I'm seeing a question from Lorraine. Does Simply Smile need any supplies for children that we can bring to donate to the week?
Thank you for asking. Off the top of my head, I don't know, but I can update you and Rami. And of course, you can bring specific supplies for your summer camp plans too. One of our staff members in our office, Jasmine, who you met last year, will be our summer camp director this summer. And so she'll be working directly with you guys about planning camp and the activities that and supplies that you can bring for that in particular. And then we also work directly with the LaPlante school in town. And so if you have like connections with school books or supplies, we can ask them if they need or what they need in that situation too. We try to not often do like big giveaways in town just because it ends up being not fair. And when we do giveaways, we only provide like brand new items to not hurt people's dignity. But with camp, we often, you know, incorporate a lot of supplies and craft things and stuff like that. So that could always be fun and helpful, or sports supplies. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you for asking.
So we have about 10 more minutes scheduled. So we'll be happy to take more questions. One thing that I heard Sam say, and I just want to make sure that it's been acknowledged and heard, is that she said that you know, Simply Smileys is a non-religious organization, and they don't come with you know, a religious agenda, and that's, from what I saw, that was really true. I mean, in terms of what was communicated to the kids, to the families, and we fit into that in terms of Zen Peacemakers. So I just want to highlight that and make sure that even though we will be sitting in meditation in the morning, for example, we will not do that while the camp is happening. We will take our own time to do that. If somebody asks us about, you know, if somebody asks us, we can be ourselves and answer, but we're obviously not, you know, proselytizing or converting or speaking in a way that could just be uncomfortable. So, and that also just comes back into our practice of plunging. We're just going to plunge, and we're just going to immerse ourselves in that community and take their lead. Mm-hmm. What is the maximum number of volunteers that you can accommodate for the week of service?
35 is our maximum. We have beds for 38, I believe, but 35 to 38 is really our max.
Yeah. And by the way, that bunkhouse is beautiful, and we were working on it, and we weren't able to see it with the beds inside. We were working on the exterior, and that's such an incredible thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do we access the handbook? John asks. So I can answer that. Just as I'll be the group leader in terms of vis-a-vis Simply Smiles. So ideally, most of the communication with Simply Smiles will be through me, and I'll be communicating with Samantha because she's obviously doing this with dozens of other groups week by week. So I'll be the go person. And I will dispense all of these release forms, handbook. Once you sign up, that will go out to you. I can also even share it before you sign up just so you have access to that. So definitely. And I also heard Sam saying that it's available on their website.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Great. So we will make it available on our website too. Yeah.
And Joan asked, what is the maximum number of kids for the week of service? And so last year, when we were just working in the plant, we would have probably 20 to 30 kids each day, more like 30 kids each day for our summer camp programs. And so now that we're including a whole nother town, it'll probably be around 60 each day for our youth programs.
Mm-hmm. And the way the camp is set up is that, there's the horseshoe field. Is that how you call it?
Thank you.
Yeah, which has a whole story around that. There's an organic garden that they develop, which is not only is it growing organic food, but I've heard either Sam or somebody from the staff saying that some of these children have never seen organic food, or they've never seen vegetables grow.
Right.
So that's there, and then there's a basketball court, and then you saw the powwow circle. So the camp itself has a lot of different locations. When we go on camp, all of these gets activated. There'll be a group playing basketball, a group doing arts, and a canopy.
Mm-hmm.
So and you could choose how to engage. I'm seeing a question from Don. Is it easy to fly to Rapid City from New York City on the day of the airport pickup? I can answer, and then maybe Sam can answer too. Just from my experience last year, we had at least two people coming from New York City, and they arrived on time. The bus comes at noon, and I think there was a flight coming at around 10 or so, and some flights earlier. So from my experience, it works. Yeah.
Yeah, the Simply Smile staff, we always fly out of New York City, and it's fine. We ask that everyone arrives in Rapid City before 2 p.m. That's when our bus will pick everyone up, because it's a 5-hour drive to La Plante, and if possible, we like to drive not in the dark during that time. There's not a lot of road lamps throughout South Dakota. So we pick everyone up at 2, and then we drop everyone off before 12 noon. So the flights on the way out should be booked for 12 noon or later. But yeah, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marcia also asked, can you give us an idea of some of the other groups that come to volunteer with Simply Smiles? Yeah, we have a bunch of college groups that come out, like St. Michael's College and Springfield College, and Regis, all in the Northeast. We have a church group from Plymouth, Kansas, a group from Florida, Massachusetts, high school groups. We work with a lot of private high school groups like Choate and Deerfield in Massachusetts. And we have a group from Wisconsin, a church group from Green Bay, Wisconsin that comes out most years, and University of Wisconsin that comes out. And so some adult groups, a church adult group that comes out from Connecticut each year. So all different, we accept and take all different types of groups that come out.
Great. All right, so I'm seeing we're nearly close at our mark. Any last questions? We'll be happy to pick up. I would love to acknowledge one thing, is one of our connections to Simply Smiles also happens through Tiokosin Ghost Horse, and I just wanted to name him. He's a dear friend and ally to us. Genro and I was just with him in Colombia in an event there with indigenous peoples. Some of the people on this call actually been with him in our Auschwitz program. So, and he's a native of Cheyenne River, Sioux Tribe Reservation. He was born there. His mother is still, on an adjacent hill living to the camp. And he was the one who introduced us to Simply Smiles. So I just want to name him and give that respect. Yeah.
He also introduced us to La Plante.
Mm.
Yeah, on the reservation.
Yeah. we're all riding the Tiokasin vibe.
Yeah.
Great. So, okay. So I don't see any new questions. So I just want to acknowledge that. And we're nearly at 2:00. So maybe we can just wrap up. And Sam, do you have any other last words you'd like to share?
Joan just asked if we wanted to send a package ahead of arriving, if it's possible. And yes, that's possible. We have a PO box in Rapid City, and so I can give that address to Rami, who can share with all of you too. So often groups like send camp activities or crafts and stuff out to the PO box to pick up, or like bring an extra duffel bag or something of, but yes, that's possible.
Yeah.
And so, that's it from my end. Thank you all very much.
Great. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for your time and availability, and thank you for managing this incredible operation, and really just serving. So thank you, and thank you everybody who joined us for this hour. We've recorded this session, so we'll make this available on our website, so you can refer back to it. Feel free to email me with any questions, further questions. We also, if you are a Zen Peacemakers International member, we have different levels of membership, and if we have 2-level memberships that also give a discount in terms of the participation fee. So we just sent out an email about that. So if you want more information about that, you can do that. Thank you for being interested, and thank you for your excitement, and we'll be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.